What's up and welcome to the video. I'm Dr. Daniel Ricciardi. I'm going to take you through what I call my April Fool's foods. So these are foods that claim that they're healthy, but they're actually not, at least from my perspective. And I'll talk about a little bit why that is the case for each of them. Number one is diet soda. I'd be willing to bet that anybody right now, you're pretty convinced regular soda is not going to be healthy for you. I'm talking about the one that has a lot of sugar in it. I don't think I need to convince anybody of this. Feels like it's a general consensus. We all agree. Diet soda, on the other hand, a lot of debate about this. On one hand, if you're somebody that went from drinking regular soda to diet soda, it may have helped you lose weight. That's the case. That's really cool. However, I'm going to talk about what I've seen with diet soda and why it's not a good option. It boils down to the ingredients in it and the artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners, sucralose is in there, a lot of them, aspartame, a lot of research showing that these are not substances that we should be putting in our bodies, and they're not going to be good for us long term. I'm not going to go into a lot more detail on research and stuff like that. If you do want to see this, I have this video right here that talks about sucralose and some of the harmful effects in detail. So diet soda, basically the one redeeming quality that it does have is that it's 0 calorie. So I guess that's one good thing. Otherwise, I would definitely avoid it. Number two is sports drinks. Unless you're LeBron James, Caitlin Clark, somebody that's expending a ton of energy and you need just a lot of extra sugar as you're working out constantly day in and day out, these are not going to be something that you need. For myself personally, I like to go to the gym and lift. I don't need any sugar in an energy drink. Chances are the majority of us don't need this either. If you find that you're having these just with your lunch or dinner, this is probably something to reevaluate. As a replacement for an energy drink, I would say something not sugary ideally. Number three, liquid protein drinks. These ones are chock full of all these extra added ingredients, things such as carrageenan, which is a thickening agent, which may be linked to cancer. And these, again, their one redeeming quality is that they're high in protein, which somehow they kind of get away with it by just doing that and having a lot of protein. All the rest of the ingredients are not stuff that you're going to want to be consuming. They're bad for your digestion and can potentially cause inflammation. Causing inflammation is going to be a repeated thing that I'm going to be constantly saying, because inflammation is the root of the majority, the overwhelming majority of chronic diseases, which is what we all are trying to prevent so we can live as long as possible and be as healthy as possible. Number four, plant-based milks. A note on this one before I start: if you're having a type of milk like an almond milk or an oat milk, these foods are not inherently bad foods. That's not what I'm saying whatsoever. They have the one good ingredient that they start with. However, like I mentioned on the protein liquid drinks, they have a lot of other ingredients that are constantly being added in just to make the texture more thick, more palatable, more flavorful. In industries such as the plant-based food industry, they kind of been doing really well by making an enemy or a villain out of the dairy products that they're trying to replace. While it is true that a lot of people do have sensitivity to dairy, I avoided eating dairy for a portion of my life when I had poor gut health. I don't necessarily do that anymore. I eat dairy almost every day now. But if I had to choose between most of these plant-based milks or just regular dairy, I'm choosing the dairy because there's not all these other added ingredients that can potentially be inflammatory and difficult to digest. If you want a good option for a plant-based milk, good almond milk or oat milk, Moala, there's literally 0 added ingredients. It's just like the oats, the almonds, water, and nothing else that you don't need. Before we continue with the foods, very exciting announcement. For my online full script dispensary, everything now is no longer 10% off, but 20% off. Find anything like vitamins, digestion supplements, even stuff like protein powder. First link down in the description below. Check it out. And now back to the video. All right, number five, we're going to transition over to some foods now and stop talking about the drinks. First food I'll talk about is cereal. Cereal has become pretty much an abomination of a food that's not healthy, but is still parading around as being healthy. This one really kind of bothers me, to be honest with you. There's all these added colorings, added sugars, things that can potentially be inflammatory. Worst of all, it's marketed toward children for the most part. If you're looking for an alternative that's going to be a more healthy option, I would go with an oatmeal. Specifically, I'd try to find one that's low glyphosate. Glyphosate is a pesticide used in a lot of crops. Unfortunately, it finds its way into a lot of oat-based products. The EWG, Environmental Working Group, has a list if you want to check there. It shows you which oat-based products have lower levels of glyphosate. I would pick an oatmeal on that list. I know Bob's Red Mill is generally a pretty good brand, and I would do something like an oatmeal. You can even add some fruit and honey if you want a little bit of sweetness to it, and that would be a better option than eating cereal. Number six is wheat bread and multigrain bread. Like I mentioned, for the plant-based milks. There are some really good quality breads out there that aren't going to be giving you a lot of unhealthy added ingredients, but for the most part, just if you see wheat or multigrain, it's not necessarily going to be better than just regular white bread. Most of the breads from the bread aisle in the grocery store are ones that I honestly would not be eating. I'd opt for a very high quality sourdough. The only ingredients you should really be seeing in your bread are flour, water, sugar, and then yeast or probiotics, depending on which type of bread. I really love sourdough bread. I think it tastes wonderful, and if you get a good quality, you know you're not getting any additional ingredients that you shouldn't be eating. Number 7 is veggie burgers. I don't think it's wrong to eat a vegetarian or vegan diet, so long as the foods you're eating are like whole one ingredient foods that don't have a lot of extra ingredients added to them. If I had to choose between eating a real meat burger with just beef in it or a veggie burger with 17 different ingredients in it and different inflammatory oils, flavorings, and stuff like that, I'm taking the beef burger. From what I've noticed in general, anytime you're trying to create a food that looks like another food but it's just an imitation of a food, you're typically giving up a lot of quality when doing so. Number 8 is gluten-free products. I've made videos on why gluten can potentially be bad for you. Why am I knocking gluten-free products in this video? The answer is it's like a couple of the other food types that I mentioned earlier. Most gluten-free snacks literally just have one redeeming good quality and nothing else, which is that they're gluten-free. And this label is usually smacked right across the top of the package in big letters. And besides the fact that it's gluten-free, it gets away with literally anything else it wants. All right, next up, number 9 is margarine. I feel like this also falls into the case of butter kind of getting villainized as being a saturated fat and margarine being the healthy alternative, which is definitely not the case. It's made from other highly inflammatory oils and even trans fats, which are not things that you want to be eating due to inflammation. As your alternative, I'm dead serious when I say I would choose butter or ghee as an alternative, and I would never eat margarine ever. Something like Country Crock is also an example of margarine. I know people think that this is actual butter. It is not. All right, getting down to the end here, we have yogurt. I would say most yogurts are very low protein, very high sugar, and they have very, very little number of probiotic cultures in them. So it seems like it would be something that's really healthy for you, but in reality, the majority of them are not. Fortunately, most grocery stores, you can go in and find a pretty good option yogurt-wise. I prefer Greek yogurt because it's really high in protein. I get a plain one without any added sugar in it. And if you really wanted to make it a little sweeter, I would add some fruit or honey to it. And last up, I have deli meat. What's the issue with deli meat? It's sliced protein. It's healthy for you, low fat. Basically, there's a ton of preservatives and nitrates in most of them. So again, boils down to ingredients. If you looked at the nutrition label in terms of protein, calories, and macros, it's going to look really good, but just due to how it's prepared and how it's stored, these are designed to be stored for a really long time, and food's meant to spoil. It's not supposed to last a really long time. As an alternative, I would get something like pulled rotisserie chicken. Just put that on your sandwich instead of deli meat. That is all for today. Thanks for tuning into the video. Hopefully you learned something new. Maybe you disagree with some of the assessments that I make on these foods. If you liked it or didn't like it or have an opinion, please let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, I think you'll enjoy one of these 2 videos next. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.